Look, this is going to be a tough weekend for Democrats, so we should have some compassion as human beings. After all, they were so magnanimous around the same time 4 years ago. Oh, wait, they weren't.
The President of the United States incited an armed insurrection.
He is responsible for this insurrection. He is responsible for this treason.
President Trump could face criminal charges.
Donald Trump is leaving the office disgraced.
Very magnanimous, and their media pals, too. In fact, they were using January 6th to set their narrative for Biden's entire presidency, sweeping moves, using the DOJ, of course, to destroy any chance they thought that Trump ever had to return to politics again. They had control of much of the media narrative as well, and had most of the money class on their side. Michael Bloomberg, he ponied up $20 million to help boost Biden during the campaign. David Geffen, the longtime Democrat megadonor. Of course, the darkest of dark forces, George Soros. Biden even gave him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, accepted by his son Alex Soros, of course. Now, for most of Biden's presidency, the mega-rich flocked to support him at glitzy fundraisers attended by the movers and shakers of the industry. They all came to pay homage. What was wild was how much money Biden and Harris were able to raise, no matter how bad they were as candidates. They still got the big money hauls. Kamala raised $1 billion, including a lot from heavy hitters, only to lose. Wow. In fact, more billionaires supported Kamala Harris than Trump, 83 to 52. But that was then, and this is now. Over the past 2 months, the elites from tech and Wall Street are crawling over glass to work with Trump. Zuckerberg, Bezos, even Bill Gates all showed up at Mar-a-Lago. Bill Gates, a story today broke that said he was impressed after his 3-hour dinner with Donald Trump. And now, suddenly, Russia collusion has been replaced with oligarch collusion.
If the decision is made that the multi-billionaires, the super wealthy, the wealthiest people in the world, began to control all the apparatuses from the media to the economy, then who do I get to fight back for me?
And dutifully, the press vomits the same nonsense. Biden's speechwriter for his goodbye address gave Democrats their new talking point, which then they quickly echoed.
Let's talk about Joe Biden's continued concern about the rise of oligarchs. You have billionaires that are going to be pushing to deregulate industries to make their multinational corporations richer.
That farewell address is a milestone culturally in this country. Ultra wealth that can buy political power, that can control what people are seeing on their algorithms.
Well, the Biden donors weren't trying to buy political power then? Is that what we're supposed to believe? This is ludicrous. The truth is Democrats are flailing. These industry captains from Silicon Valley to Wall Street are going where the power is now. And the power right now is with Trump and the Republicans. Democrats are fine with monopolies of power when they are the political beneficiaries. So what liberals are really mad about is that they can no longer control the narrative anymore. Everyone is a news gatherer. Everyone has a voice. And the old media poodles have gotten their comeuppance. And speaking of poodles,
during his farewell address, he warned the free press is crumbling in this country. I would add that's only if we, the people, let that happen. Journalists exist to seek the truth, to tell people's stories, to lift up voices that may not be heard otherwise, to shine a light on injustice, and to hold the powerful accountable. We are not the enemy of the people. We are the defenders of the people.
oh my goodness, he really should hit the comedy line circuit with that routine. Now, look, in the end, the test of Trump's success is whether he'll be able to work with all of these different groups and individuals that are coming to meet with him, that he's assembling to make life better for the average American. America first is why he won. And his serving that agenda will make him even more popular through his 4 years in office than he is right now.
Get a good look. Might be one of the last times you see him. Joe Biden left the White House today, boarding Marine One for one final trip as president. And before that, he got a question from the press.
talk to Trump before inauguration? Do you plan to talk to Trump before inauguration?
No, it's coming up real quick. I'll see him at the inauguration.
Well, we'll see about that because inauguration's looking a little different. More on that later. Biden's leaving office, quote, totally dejected. People say the White House feels like a morgue. All of Biden's friends are giving him a eulogy. Listen.
You know, I really miss Biden. I feel like we were safe. Like, I didn't have to worry. Was everything going to blow up? Well, I could live my life while he was there. Now, every day I wake up and I worry, what is this guy going to do next?
It's a bitter goodbye. And Joe's going out screaming.
This is one of the last events that I'll be doing as president. I affirm the Equal Rights Amendment to have cleared all the necessary hurdles to be added to the U.S. Constitution now. The Equal Rights Amendment is the law of the land now. It's the 28th Amendment to the Constitution now.
Every lawyer in D.C. is trying to figure out what he just said. Brett Baer's bow ties in a tangled mess. Did the president just announce he added things to the Constitution? How? It sounds like Biden thinks he just added an amendment. Here's the thing. There is no 28th Amendment. If Trump announced he'd made an amendment to the Constitution, all hell would break loose. But the media is not even taking Joe seriously. They're like, he says things. Two people close to Biden tell NBC that, quote, privately, Biden has vacillated from feeling melancholy to resigned to angry to wistful as he reflects on his legacy. Have you ever seen a man go through so many mood swings? Is he having menopause? And he's also full of regret.
The mistake we made was, I think I made, was not getting our allies to acknowledge that the Democrats did this. So, for example, build a new billion-dollar bridge over a river. We'll call it the Democratic Bridge, figuratively speaking. Talk about who put it together. Let people know that this was something the Democrats did, that it was done by the party. That's different than me writing a check and me signing a check and saying, I did it. I'm not a very good huckster.
This is the guy Democrats said should be on Mount Rushmore. Do you think Teddy Roosevelt in his exit interview whined about not getting enough credit? I should have put my name on bridges and stimmy checks. This isn't a great statesman. No one feels sorry for a guy with his own jet, nukes, and chef. Biden had the entire media and tech industry on his side, and he thinks he had a PR problem. The media is remembering the Biden era a little differently. They're remembering a president who lied to them.
Democrats, including you, were relentlessly harsh against special counsel Robert Hur for making an observation that proved pretty accurate about how Joe Biden might appear to a jury as a well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory.
And a president who hid from them.
They started to get smarter from the perspective of keeping him from saying something off script. So they would put a microphone like 2 feet inside of a door for him in some room on campus. And a door would open and he would go right to the microphone. And then when he was done, he would step right out, no chance to shout anything. Or Shuffle. They would pack the room with people. Just hundreds of people would suddenly show up, materialize between us and him. Or they found eventually the cord to plug somebody's iPhone in, and they would just blast music so that people could not get anything to him. And so a lot of it was stagecraft.
The Ragin' Cajun calls the Biden legacy, quote, one of the great tragedies of American politics. He should be having a glorious, well-deserved, highly acclaimed retirement, and he's not. It's hard to blame anybody but him. The Atlantic says Biden destroyed his legacy by stubbornly setting off on his own re-election campaign, by strapping his party to his shuffling frame. He doomed the nation to realizing the nightmare scenario that he'd promised to prevent. He created the ideal conditions for Trump's return and for his own spectacular failure. And not only is he leaving with zero cash for a presidential library, he's leaving with no friends. Biden's people say the relationship between him and Nancy is, quote, permanently damaged. His relationship with Kamala is being called frosty after Joe's been bragging about how he could have beaten Trump. but Kamala might have something up her sleeve.
I am fully aware that I am the public face of a lot of our work, and so I have the benefit of running into people all over our country who thank me. It is not my nature to go quietly into the night.
Publishers want to pay her millions to write a tell-all, so this isn't over at all. And Joe can't stop talking about Barack.
You've heard Barack get mad at me when I was a kid all the time. He said, I know, all politics is personal.
Yeah.
Well, it's about understanding what motivates the other guy, other woman, and what their interests are.
And it's all personal. Biden's upset that Barry stabbed him in the back, and Obama's upset that Joe didn't name an aircraft carrier after him. Yeah, after Biden named aircraft carriers after Bush and Clinton this week, Barack's people are complaining. One said Barack H. Obama did not get an effing personnel carrier named after him. The SS Hussein Obama doesn't really strike fear in the heart of our enemies, so maybe that's a good oversight. And Barack and Nancy aren't the only ones on Joe's bad side. Chuck Schumer now in the hot seat, too. We just found out Chuck was the lead actor in the coup, although that's according to Chuck. He just spilled his guts to the Times. According to the story, after the debate, Schumer's flip phone wouldn't stop ringing. Biden wasn't leaving. Instead, he released a letter telling Democrats to fall in line. On Capitol Hill, Democrats didn't even think Joe wrote it. They thought it was written by Hunter. One senator said they wouldn't support Biden unless he could produce 2 neurologists to issue a public report saying he was fit to serve, and then hold a news conference where anyone could ask questions. Obviously, that never happened. And inside of private meetings, they were all fighting with each other. John Fetterman was pleading with Schumer, saying, we've got to be for Joe Biden, and accusing Democrats of having no spine. Schumer scolded Fetterman, saying, you can always express what you think in our caucus, but don't ever tell our members they have no spine. It's not effective for you and not fair to them. Remember, Schumer leaked this to the Times, so it's just his side of the story. Barack was getting worried that Democrats were doing nothing, but he wasn't going to be the one to break the news to Joe. Barry said his relationship with Joe was fragile, and he told Chuck, you may be the better one. He was like, trust me, you don't want me to do this. And when Chuck showed up in Rehoboth Beach, he heard Biden shouting on a Zoom call with other Democrats, I'm not leaving. And he knew things were about to get awkward. So Chuck had to tell him how bad his poll numbers were. And he showed him a sheet where Biden had just a 5% chance of beating Trump. And Biden looked at it like he'd never seen numbers like this before. His own pollsters were hiding the numbers from him. He sat down near a screened-in porch overlooking a pond in Delaware and said, if you run and you lose to Trump and we lose the Senate and we don't get back the House, that 50 years of amazing, beautiful work goes out the window. But worse, you can go down in American history as one of the darkest figures. And left with one last warning, quote, if I were you, I wouldn't run. And I'm urging you not to run. Biden didn't shout, didn't argue. All he did was say, you really think Kamala can win? And then Biden said, I need a week. As Schumer walked out, Biden put his hands on his shoulder and says, quote, you've got bigger balls than anyone I've ever met. And Chuck went out to his car and broke down crying. Crying Chuck. A week later, Biden dropped out.
And welcome to Hannity. And tonight, in less than 3 days, Donald Trump will be sworn into office as the 47th president of our country. On Sunday, we will be at our nation's capital with a live show. We're going to kick off what will be a very busy, historic week on Monday because of dangerously cold temperatures. I mean, with the wind chill below zero, it's going to be really cold. Well, Donald Trump's inauguration will take place inside, making him the first president since Ronald Reagan to be sworn in at the Capitol Rotunda. I think a good call. Reagan's 1985 inauguration was also held inside because of extremely cold weather. Now, Donald Trump is expected to hit the ground running with a flurry of executive orders, other critical measures, but not before a little celebration. There will be musical performances. Carrie Underwood, America the Beautiful, Rascal Flatts, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, Billy Ray Cyrus, the Village People, Lee Greenwood. They're all going to be there. And speaking of Billy Ray, he will also be performing at the Make America Great Again rally. That's on Sunday night. He will be with us in just a few minutes. We'll get a preview of that and why he felt so strongly about going to Butler, Pennsylvania after the assassination attempt. Now, there will also be dozens of business leaders in town. Well, Elon Musk will be there, Bezos will be there, Mark Zuckerberg will be there, Apple CEO Tim Cook will be there. Even Bill Gates seems excited about Donald Trump's presidency. He was, quote, impressed and intrigued after a recent dinner with the president-elect. Take a look.
Have you met with Donald Trump since the election?
Yeah, I had a chance to go have a long and actually quite intriguing dinner with him.
What did you discuss? What was intriguing?
Well, we touched on a lot of things. It was over 3 hours. To my surprise, it was, just he and I, his chief of staff, Susie Wiles, and the person who helps manage things for me, Larry Cohen. So the four of us sat there, and it was quite wide-ranging. I felt like he was, energized and, looking forward to helping to drive innovation. I was frankly impressed with how well he showed a lot of interest in the issues I brought up.
Oh, he's describing the guy that I've known for 30 years. Now, Donald Trump isn't just bringing together business leaders. For the first time, the Prime Minister of Italy, the President of Argentina, they will be attending the inauguration. China, meanwhile, they're sending their vice president after a recent phone call between Donald Trump and President Xi. And last, but certainly not least, all of this was made possible by all of you, each and every one of you. And again, I can't thank each and every one of you enough. This can be the most transformational presidency in 100 years. There will be thousands upon thousands of loyal Donald Trump supporters like you in D.C. celebrating what is a new day in America that would have been, would not have been possible without all of your hard work, your effort, your perseverance. And many of you watching tonight, you have stuck with Donald Trump through thick and thin, through trials, through witch hunts, through early morning raids, dishonest smear campaigns, 2 assassination attempts. Many of you were shunned, you were censored, you were harassed simply because of your deeply held political beliefs. But you hung in there, you did the right thing, you fought hard for what you believed in. And because of all of you, Donald Trump now has a mandate to return America to what I'm calling constitutional order. Imagine cutting $2 trillion in spending, and that would limit the size, the scope, the influence of government. That would be less bureaucracy. That would be greater freedom. What a concept, limited government. And for the first time, a majority of the American people, they are rooting for Donald Trump to succeed. Nearly 6 out of 10 Americans believe that he will do a good job as president. And meanwhile, the left is now more unpopular around the world than at any point since the fall of the Soviet Union. Freedom, meritocracy, individualism, logic, common sense, they are on the rise. Statism, redistribution, socialism, cradle to grave, womb to the tomb. It is dying a needed death. And here at home, the Democratic Party is in complete shambles. A source close to President Biden telling NBC News that Biden feels, quote, totally dejected, and the people around him as well. And insiders are saying that the Biden White House feels like a morgue. We have kind of been saying that in our own way for the past 4 years. A majority of the American people say that Biden, he's made the economy worse. They are right. He has. He's leaving office with a record low approval rating. Last night on MSDNC, Joe Biden does what he always does, takes responsibility for nothing, lashes out against red states, blaming conservatives for his poor job performance. Take a look.
I got a lot of criticism, understandably. We've invested more in red states than blue states.
That's in this book. That's in this report.
Well, for 2 reasons. One, red states really screwed up in terms of the way they handle their economy and the way they handle manufacturing, the way they handle access to supply chains.
All right, that makes no sense at all whatsoever. But That's what we have come to expect from the leader of the Democratic Party. In fact, you probably won't see many highlights from Biden's final sit-down interview on any other network because, as per usual, it was nothing but a dumpster fire. You decide.
You've heard Barack get mad at me when I was a kid all the time. He said, I know, all politics is personal.
Yeah.
Well, it's about understanding what motivates the other guy, other woman, and what their interests are. That's different than me writing a check and me signing a check and saying, I did it. I'm not a very good huckster. And I didn't think it, by the way, I didn't think it was, I've got to go to Ukraine, but I think it was important.
It's clear, it's obvious. Americans on both sides of the aisle, Joe Biden is not fit to serve. He's not been fit for 4 years to serve. We told all of you this before the 2020 election. At the time, we were kind of excoriated for telling the truth. Over time, it became apparent to everybody. According to the New York Times, multiple Democratic senators were begging Joe not to run for a second term. That would include Chuck Schumer. All the while, Obama, behind the scenes, pulling the strings, along with Nancy Pelosi. And after all the election, all the big players in the Democratic Party, right now they're kind of all hating on each other. And historic loser Kamala Harris, apparently also not in good spirits. According to insiders, she is deeply sad. She feels betrayed by Joe Biden. I think she's the one involved in betraying him and is also at war with almost everyone in her own party. Ultimately, after years of hysteria, dishonesty, woke politics, eco-socialism, failure, the weaponization of government, this is what the Democrats, frankly, have earned, and this is what they deserve. I hope they can use this moment to fix what's broken in their own party. It would be nice to have a two-party system, but not a radical leftist system. One that would create a cradle-to-grave, womb-to-the-tomb, new Green Deal society with wide-open borders without any vetting that offers free taxpayer-funded sex change operations for illegal immigrants and convicts, and also gender-affirming care for children without parental consent. That is not in touch with Americans' values. The only Democrat at this point that seems somewhat reasonable today is Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania. It's going to be very interesting to watch him as the party moves forward. But again, really, it's a time of reflection, introspection, and a time on this show to say thanks to all of you, because in less than 3 days, because of your hard work, your dedication, you filtering out the lies of the legacy media, Donald Trump will be back in office, and America now has a golden opportunity to get back on track. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.